Well, welcome everyone to the ScreamCast, episode 26. I'm your host, Sean DeRager, and with me as always, Brad Henderson.
Whatever.
Brian Sauer is still, I think his house is just falling down around him.
It's because of that last podcast we did, man. He was tearing down his fucking neighbor's house, basically, and fucking tearing up his garage just to record with us.
Yep.
It's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. One of these days he'll return. Well, today we are talking Ginger Snaps. So, pretty excited to talk about this Scream Factory release. And also I wanted to mention we're probably going to be doing away with the musical break. I had a lot of people kind of letting me know they didn't like it. I know some of you do like it, so we'll do kind of an experiment. We'll keep the musical break off the table for now.
And I'm going to sing in place of it.
Right, we'll have a Brad.
There we go.
A Brad acoustical number.
Because I will say we got a bigger, like, you know, because Sean and I both run the Twitter account and we try to sign off our letter or whatever, who it is.
Try.
But between myself, my Twitter account, and the ScreamCast, we had a bigger response to my Deadly Eyes rendition from the Deadly Eyes episode more than we have any other song that we've played on this podcast.
And that was kind of
something.
I don't know. The proof is in the pudding. That's what my grandma used to say. I don't know what that means.
What the fuck does that mean?
I have no idea. And all it makes me think about is Dead Alive in the custard scene, you know. So I don't know where that went. Anyway, Todd Farmer's on the show today, but before we get to him, let's go ahead and knock these Blu-ray announcements. Just get these done with. Sound good?
I guess. Proof is in the pudding.
The blood is in the custard. Right? Does that not work?
Do you like what you see?
I love what I see.
Would you like to touch what you see?
Yes, I would.
Alright guys, on Tuesday, August 26th, Legend of Hell House by Scream comes out, so make sure you pick that up. I haven't seen that movie for the longest fucking time. I just remember the cover of that when I was younger kind of creeped me out. It was like all blue with like an axe and shit. I think that's the right one. But so I haven't actually got to watch that yet, and it will be my second viewing. So I'm pretty pumped up about that. And then Blue Underground is doing a hell of a double feature here by Rats and Hell of the Living Dead, which is both directed by Vincent Dawn, who's obviously just using a name. It's Bruno Mattei is the director. He went by Vincent Dawn for his American film, the ones that were released over here. It's definitely something to pick up. Rats is fucking phenomenal. It is so fucking goofy. And Hell Living Dead is a pretty cool zombie flick. There's a little history on these things because Hell Living Dead is Mattei's take on the zombie genre before he, went in with Zombie 3, because he's the director that took over when Fulci had his stroke. Fulci had a stroke during the filming of Zombie 3, and he took over. They took like 30 minutes of what Fulci did, and then they filmed like another hour or something. You could totally tell the difference on that. But anyways, he did this movie called Hell Living Dead, which uses a lot of, Goblin, of course, supplied the soundtrack, but they just took everything from Dawn and just put it in this. It's a little funny watching it if you're, a big fan of Dawn of the Dead and the music starts playing.
The music, they took all the music?
Yeah, like the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and, kind of like whenever, Roger, they're driving the trucks back and forth to block that song that plays. It plays like throughout the movie a lot. But Rats is kind of a main focus here because I thought I saw Rats when I was younger, but I didn't. And this is my first viewing, and this thing is absolutely batshit insane.
Nice.
Like, it's not fucking big rats or anything. It's just like the little guys that eat everything.
Right.
But it's apocalyptic. It's like a Mad Max type shit where a group of, scavengers, or, they go to this town and they find this, this building, and they go in. It's, super advanced. It like has a front of being, just a shitty bar, but it actually turns out to be this like super advanced thing where people are trying to survive. So, there's nothing left in the world. So these people are going through and they find this like surplus of food in this room, and they just go fucking ballistic. They're not eating the food. They just start destroying it.
They're rubbing all over their bodies and stuff.
Yeah. It's like they find Cheetos and they're like throwing up in the air. And like this one guy, he finds like packets of flour. And, this is also where they dubbed over with English. So you have that as well. 'Cause like, the mouth matches up a little bit, but not quite. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
So like, he's like, sugar! I found sugar! And that's how he sounds. It's just so like, it's some guy speaking in front of a microphone. Yeah. But he's like, sugar! And he like bites into the plastic. And he just starts throwing sugar in his mouth. I don't care how hungry you are or how long it's been since you had food. I'm not sure, like, this is how you would react if you had sugar.
It's like those movies where they're, like, in the desert, right, and they're wasting away, they need water, and then they find water, and what do? They dump water all over themselves.
But that's exactly what he does. Then right. he holds up the sugar bag, and he pours it into his face. Now, this sugar is getting in his eyeballs, up his nose, and in his mouth.
It's devotion to the craft, man.
Like, I don't see any, like... And then the one guy, he finds flour, and it's this huge sack, and he just like, he picks it, he tastes it, he's like, oh my god, it's flour, and they all start cheering, but then he takes all the flour and dumps it on the person next to him.
Wow.
So it's like, you basically have destroyed, like, maybe they can't cook, maybe these guys can't cook with flour and sugar, but it's just the point of wasting the shit. And so basically, they find like there's this whole like water system for water purification. There's this computer and shit. And they're like, oh, we can live here. But yet the place is infested with rats.
Mm-hmm.
But people, this is the thing that bothers me. And it's not the nitpick of this movie, because it's, this movie wouldn't exist if they did exactly what I'm thinking. But if your fucking friends are dying by these like little rats, just leave. Just pack up your shit and go. But it's like they're determined to fight these little things. Like rats are going to be the last thing on this earth, pretty much. Like
rats and cockroaches, probably.
Yeah, they've adapted. Like they don't give a shit if you're going to stay or live, or stay or die.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's a good double feature.
Nice.
Rats isn't the best transfer. It looks like it's pretty much like the DVD that came out by Blue Underground. Because I had the DVD for a long time, and I thought I watched the movie. And then this came out, so I just replaced it. And Hell Living Dead looks fucking phenomenal. It's one of the best. Like Blue Underground does some good work here and there. Their transfers sometimes can be a little bit iffy, but Hell Living Dead is great.
Cool.
So that's Tuesday.
Are these separate discs? Or
no, it's a double feature.
Okay,
it's a double feature by because it's the same director and everything.
Yeah, I know people who collect. Some people who have like crazy rules with their collecting are gonna have their OCD is gonna go into overdrive.
Yeah, I used to be like that, but now I just really don't give a shit.
Yeah, me too.
September 9th, of course, we have more releases. This stuff is all re-releases, so no one has to like really fucking worry. The only one that stands out is a Carrie 3-pack that's coming out.
Mm-hmm.
This has the original Carrie, the sequel to Carrie, and then the made-for-TV Carrie. All on Blu-ray, so I'm pretty excited about that because we get the made-for-TV Carrie, which is decent, and the Rage Carrie 2, which I have just a soft spot for. It's totally ridiculous, but I just enjoy it. And then the next thing is a few movies that are coming out. They're all re-releases, and Sean and I were discussing this before the show, and Sean has an idea of what it is. But Carrie, Child's Play, Jeepers Creepers, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, Return of the Living Dead, Misery, Last House on the Left, Silence of the Lambs, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and Teen Wolf, and maybe more, are being released by 20th Century Fox on Blu-ray. But they have different cover art, and the cover art is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's the best alternate cover I think I've seen, because there's been some companies that have been doing this, like they redid the Planet of the Apes covers. and a whole bunch of other ones.
Yeah,
they did a bunch of kind of minimalist.
This is like legit of like
these are cool.
Ahead,
no, well, the other ones are like they're like kind of Mondo type. I don't know. They're like very minimalist that I've seen like at Best Buy or whatever. And like Princess Bride has like something. All those. I don't. What studio is that? Is Princess Bride? Is that?
I can't remember. I know what you're talking about.
But anyway,
they kind of do a new age cover art, and it's just like it doesn't fit the movie at all.
Right.
Or it's just all like fucking looks like.
It just looks stupid. I don't know, but these ones like legit, like it's like you and I were talking before we started recording. Like this looks like what Scream Factory's doing with their cover art. Looks like they did it for these re-releases, and what we were discussing was like we're not sure. Like, is this a new slip cover? Is this
because it says FP. We don't know what FP stands
what's
for.
What's FP? I was like, maybe that's faceplate. I've seen them do this in marketing where they just slap like a card on the front of the Blu-ray and wrap it up and shrink wrap.
Yeah.
That's not, and then you unwrap it and it's just worthless. And I'm hoping it's not like that. Hopefully it's full on. But they're doing this for Halloween, so this stuff you'll probably find this stuff in Best Buy and things like that, and
they're like $10 too, so it's cool. So I mean, don't get super excited that there's going to be a new transfer Return of the Living Dead. It's probably not going to happen. Yeah. But man, I tell you, they if it's Fox doing this, like they went the wrong route. If they did Steelbooks, they would have sold. Like, people are obsessed with Steelbooks. I love Steelbooks, and I would have replaced every single one of these if they were Steelbooks, just because like I just like how they feel and look. And man, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 cover art though kills everything. Like, it's just so good, But anyways, yeah, we'll wait and see. But I've looked. I can't find what FP really stands for. It's just all guesses.
Maybe it's fall. Maybe it's fall promotional. Fall promotional.
There you go, Sean.
I used to work in retail and stuff like that, and I'm just trying to think of what would make sense.
Well, I'm hoping that it's Steelbooks still. So, September 23rd is Ghost in the Shell is getting a release by Anchor Bay, and it's the original.
The original
anime.
cell animated one, not the bullshit CG redo that they released a few years back. Man, that thing pissed me off because that thing had the cell animated version, but it was less than DVD quality. Like, my DVD looked better than what was on the Blu-ray. But yeah. Anchor Bay's putting this out, and finally a legit copy of Ghost in the Shell on Blu-ray. So I'm super excited.
And then John Portanovo, which we mentioned a lot, the writer of The Invoking, his company, along with some other guys, I think the director, Jeremy Berg, I believe his name, the director of The Invoking, they put a company together called the October People, and they're trying to get this movie called Found off the ground. Found went around. I know we talked about it on the podcast before, but it's been a while. Found was a movie that just circulated at film festivals. It was kind of like this kind of underground type film. I saw it about 2 years ago. My buddy who listens to the show, Jay Hawkinson, Sleestack on Twitter, he gave me a copy because he bought some. At one of the screenings, and this movie's just fucking. It's terrible in a way of just like more morality, and it's not a terrible movie. The fucking movie's phenomenal, but it's just so like fucked up. And it's basically this little kid finds out his brother's a serial killer, and it's just. It goes places that you didn't think it was going to go. It's only getting a DVD release, which sucks. Wish it was getting a Blu-ray. Accelerator Media is putting it out, and they put out Blu-rays all the time, so I don't know what their deal is on this. But it's getting a release on September 23rd. I highly, highly suggest picking it up. It's really, really good, and it's nice to see this film actually get a decent release. Because there's been DVDs circulating on the internet that are made by the filmmakers, basically, that had special features and stuff, which is cool. But those things go for like $200. If people don't know, like, these underground B movies and even C grade shit goes for phenomenal amount of money. Like, I don't get it because I'm not a big fan of that type of thing. But some of these releases, like on Blu-ray and stuff, even like the Dustin Mills movies, which I know people go apeshit for, those things just on DVD skyrocket to $100.
That's crazy.
It's very bizarre. So definitely pick that up. October 7th, the Wrong Turn collection comes out by Fox, all 5 Wrong Turn movies. But yet, Wrong Turn 6 comes out October 21st. So instead of doing something cool of putting part 6 in there, or at least have, the single release, Wrong Turn 6, and then put it in with the 5 film collection, making it 6 film collection would be cool. Kind of like what they did with Child's Play. Because, certain people have I own Wrong Turn 1 through 5 on the single release, so I'm, of course, going to buy 6. That's not a big deal. But for the people that want to, maybe have 1 or 2 of them, want to purchase the set, I think that's kind of shitty. But anyways, Wrong Turn 6 comes out. I'm kind of excited about this one. Wrong Turn's pretty fun. Wrong Turn 2 is great. Joe Lynch did a phenomenal job.
These ones are kind of up and down, right? There's some are good, some aren't.
Like Wrong Turn, the first Wrong Turn's cool. It's just like a Hills Have Eyes type thing. Wrong Turn 2 has this comedic side. Henry Rollins is in it. It's batshit, just fucking bloody. Joe Lynch did a great job. Wrong Turn 3, not so much. It picked back up with Wrong Turn 4, Bloody Beginnings, which does like the history, and it's really good. It takes place like I think it's like a hospital or mental asylum, but it takes place like in the snow. That's pretty cool. Wrong Turn 5 was okay, but those movies are up and down, so we'll see. October 28th, Deliver Us from Evil, the Scott Derrickson directed movie, which he did The Day the Earth Stood Still remake. He did Sinister. So kind of pumped up about that one. I actually missed that at the theater. I don't like going to the theater during horror movies around here. People are just too noisy, so I kind of wait. Kino's releasing the Quartermass Experiment on Blu-ray December 2nd. The Strange Color of Your Body's Tears is getting released on Blu-ray on December 9th. Highly suggest pick this one up. This couple that directed this, they did the O for Orgasm for ABCs of Death, and they also did a kind of a giallo feel film called Amir that I really, really fucking love.
This is a newer movie, right?
Yeah, this is a newer movie.
Oh, okay.
But
the poster art's fantastic.
Yeah, these the cinematography from this duo director team is it's phenomenal. Their movies look so perfect. It's sickening. Because even if you guys haven't seen Amir, which a lot of people haven't, there's the ABCs of Death, which they had a segment which doesn't really fit ABCs of Death. It feels, but it looks phenomenal. The colors, everything. It's good. So I highly suggest picking up that movie because it's a really good movie too.
I'm adding Amir to my wish list.
Yeah, it's definitely something to pick up.
Right.
And also, guys, pick up Amir if you haven't seen it. December 16th, back with John Portnova. He wrote this film called The Device. He was actually nice enough to let me watch it. I saw a work print of it. I fucking loved it. I thought it was great. I love alien shit. And this movie is about aliens. The cover art sucks. It really does. Like, I was talking to John about it, and they made it look like some kind of fucking Terminator thing. Kind of like what Image did with Invoking. It looks like some fucking haunted house Conjuring shit. And it's not. And they did this thing with this, like, the device, actually, that's in the movie is on the ground. It's this woman hovered over it. But there's, like, all these, like, fucking, like, cords and shit hooked into her. Like, she's some kind of, like, Matrix shit. I think even John said people are going to think of the Matrix when they see it. But it's not at all. It's just, this indie alien movie. It's good. It's one of those things I mentioned on a couple last podcast or something, like story horror. It's very character based rather than, let's throw people out in a cabin and have aliens attack them. It goes a little bit different route, which I dig. So, but that's it for the Blu-ray /DVD announcements.
Cool.
I know that.
Let me see if I might
go
have
ahead, Sean. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah. We need to mention Life Force, kind of the collector's edition. Screen Factory is putting that out of print. I think they lost the rights to the vintage making of documentary, so they're not allowed to keep that going. So they basically have wanted to reprint Life Force, but they can't because they lost the rights to this, which is a really weird scenario that they were kind of put into. So they're re-releasing it. They're taking off collector's edition. It's only without that one documentary, which I'm totally fine with. No slipcover, but that's not, when they do repressings, they don't do the slipcover anyway. And they're swapping out looks like they're just reversing the cover art. So it's the original poster art. So you're still getting pretty much the whole package except one documentary. So I don't think it's enough to get your panties in a bunch for that. But those collector's editions are going to skyrocket. So
yeah, there you go.
If that's the one you want, I would say if you can find it for cheap, get it now.
Yeah, last time I checked a couple days ago, it was on Amazon. It was still the same price.
I think all the stores still have them in stock. I think Scream Factory, they're just giving us a heads up. Hey, this is going to go out, and when it goes out,
which is cool for them to do. People they're actually, they're being smart about this one.
Totally.
Because it's not like they're not smart, but they've done a couple things here and there where, fans reacted, which, they can't anticipate just, this huge backlash. Because once you're a fan, you think you're a fan, but even the fans are fucking backlashing because of, like they said, the picture with Eli Roth giving them the movies.
Yeah.
What was the other one? Oh, the Nightbreed shit. So, they actually thought ahead on this one. It was a very, smart thing and nice thing to do because a lot of companies don't even do this.
Yeah, I've noticed.
So, they're letting us know.
Yeah, I've noticed lately they've been giving us heads up, especially about what one was delayed. That double feature is delayed till December. Tales from the Crypt and
the Vault of Horror.
Horror. I mean, those are delayed. They let us know. I mean, Dog Soldiers is still delayed. There's no upfront. And then, I don't know, did we mention this? That they put the kibosh on Hellhole?
No, we haven't.
I don't
think we mentioned that. There was sent out some tweets or a tweet and Facebook post that they can't salvage the damaged print that they have. So
they want the full print. They have like a print that
they want an uncut. Uncut version. So, they said until someone steps forward that has that print, they're going to have to put it off their list, which, kind of sucks. It was a movie that I've never seen. I was really, really, hoping for to see. Like, even, it's surprising, like, the routes that they won't go. Like just getting, a VHS and splicing it in there, or, I guess maybe it was the uncut stuff that was fucked up. That's my best guess is that they did a license on the uncut version, and the only one they can find is fucked up, and it's the uncut stuff.
Yep, which sucks.
So maybe they'll go and get, maybe the cuts, maybe the license out the cut thing. I don't know how.
I was trying to kind of look at their responses on Facebook and everything, and it sounds like they really have no interest on the cut version. It sounds like if they want to go for it, they want to go for the uncut.
Yeah,
so
sounds like somebody might be a fan of that movie over there or something. So.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So let's see. What else do I got here on my notes?
I don't know. What do you have else? What else
Elvira's Movie Macabre Coffin Collection. All the.
Are you taking over the Blu-ray announcements?
This is a DVD. Yeah. This is a DVD, but
you took over. So basically,
I'm taking over a little bit, just a little bit.
I'll do the Blu-ray announcements. You do the DVD announcements.
No, I'm just saying this comes out September 23rd. So if you're an Elvira fan, you can own all the Elviras. In one coffin box. So, let's see. And I think that's it. Oh, did you mention Juan of the Dead?
Well, no, that's been announced that's actually when we very first started doing Blu-ray announcements. Well, Sean hasn't listened to Blu-ray announcements, but
it's been a while. So it is, if you're like me, you've been holding out on buying this on DVD, it is coming to Blu-ray. And I don't have the date in front of me, but, here we go. September 16th.
Yeah, September, yeah.
So, anyway, that's all I got. I'll just kind of, throw out, there's some things I had.
Well, we mentioned about we mentioned DVDs on the show, today, which, we normally don't do because we do the segment is the Blu-ray announcements. But there's been, I've got a few messages here and there since we started this, is like, why don't you mention DVDs? Well, we can't
DVDs suck. People need to come into the now.
Well, if we mentioned everything that was on DVD that's not on Blu-ray, we'd be here forever because these segments go entirely too long, just like this one.
Yeah.
If stuff's worth mentioning, I'll mention it. And if it's something that you think that we should mention, go ahead and, shoot us a email, tweet, DM, whatever.
Yeah.
And we'll mention it on the show. Cause some of these things, to be frank, there's like a lot of these DVDs that are coming out I haven't seen. So with the Blu-ray announcements, a lot of the stuff that we announce is, being stuff that's being re-released that I've seen or at least know about. Yep. I'm not going to be fucking mentioning every direct to DVD movie. That'd be silly.
Well, yeah, definitely. If there's a movie you want, you know is coming out that you like and needs a shout out, just drop us a line and let us know.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, let's put the announcements to bed and get Todd Farmer.
Give music
in
a break.
No musical break.
For the way you look.
I'm trying to let this transition naturally, and you're just ruining the transition.
For the okay, you just speak. Yeah,
all right.
whisper.
Enough of this bullshit. Let's bring Todd Farmer in and talk some ginger snaps.
V is for very extraordinary. Are you done?
Well, yeah, you're saying over what I was saying.
Oh, no, I was whispering, though.
No, you weren't. No,
okay.
You weren't.
All right, try it again.
Todd Farmer's here now, and we're going to talk about some motherfucking ginger snaps, people.
Is for the way you look at me. Is that better?
Jesus Christ.
Is for the only one I see.
Okay, shut up. Todd, you there?
Hey, dickheads.
That's the kind of greeting I think I would expect.
Exactly. I'm going to ask straight out, why did you pick Ginger Snaps?
I actually love the movie. I think the thing that I've never gone public and said is werewolf movies are my favorite. When you look at the vampires and you look at the, all of the classic monsters, werewolf is by far my favorite. Always has been.
What is it about the werewolf mythos that attracts you to it?
I just think that male or female, there's that violent side in all of us, and I love the fact that the werewolf movie, brings that visually, and there's no holding back. It's you really become the animal that we all have inside us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could totally see that. Well, I mean, with I guess more like character, based werewolf movies, you get to see a lot more instead of a bunch of people going and getting attacked by werewolves. Like Ginger Snaps definitely focuses on a relationship between two girls, one turning into a fucking werewolf,
and it's
the other one, dealing with it.
Yeah, it's definitely the coming of age werewolf movie, to some degree, Teen Wolf, although more whimsical, but from the female perspective, certainly. But, and I also, from the victim standpoint, I like the T-Rex element of the werewolf because, they'll come through the door, they'll come through the windows, they'll come through the walls, where the vampire has rules. He can't come in unless he was invited, and he's more smooth and sparkly in whatever some movies.
Some people think they're sparkly.
Yes. So,
they've been mistaken to be sparkly. Yeah. Well, yeah, I think, werewolves are a werewolf is just pure terror. Like there's no, like you said, it's just animal instinct. So.
Yeah, and I love that. I'm a huge fan of, I say the original. It's actually not the original. The original was Werewolf in London. At least I think it was. It was Werewolf in London's the first werewolf movie,
in London,
right?
Yeah, then
and then Paris.
Yeah.
I get them confused too sometimes. I'm like, wait, which one came first? I could never fucking remember. But
for the first time, I think Wolfman's probably the first one I saw, and but since that moment, I've been intrigued. I loved Wolf. I know a lot of people make fun of it, but Jack Nicholson as a werewolf, hell yeah.
Yeah, I dig that one. I don't see.
Yeah, I dug Wolf too. Yeah. Well, it's with me is like I agree with Todd. With the werewolf thing, and also vampires. Like two of those things are two of my favorites. However, like there's just so many of them. We're flooded with so much like just mediocre, just bland movies like that with vampires and werewolves. It's hard to pick the good ones. That's just how I've always been. Is that there's so many, but there's not. They're okay, but ones that really like stand out there and be like, holy shit, Yeah. I don't know. I just don't think there's that many of them. So I think the top 5 list that we're going to do for werewolf movies is going to be kind of fun on this.
Oh yeah, that'll be cool. And the thing, I mean, I guess to some degree it's apples and oranges because I certainly do love the vampire movie, but the vampire is more, the vampire is the cat that plays with its food before it eats it, where the werewolf is the panther that just comes in and devours you. So it's and I've never had, I've written some stuff with vampires in the past. I don't think any of them ever got made, but I did a thing with, you guys know Whitley Strieber? He did The Hunger.
Yeah, love his fucking Alien books.
Yeah, I mean, they're fantastic. He did The Hunger, and he had 2 sequels to The Hunger, and back, I don't know, I guess it's probably been close to 10 years ago. Sci-Fi hired me to do a miniseries, and based on the next 2 books, and so that was the first time I got to write in sort of the vampire genre, and I loved it. It was fantastic, and it was great working with him because he was, a lot of authors you would think would be precious when it comes to their material, but I would call him up day or night and say, you know what, I've reached a point where I'm kind of stuck. And he was never precious with the material that he had written. He would just start spamming me ideas. Well, what if we do this? And so that was great.
So, well, I mean, even his Wolfen,
that's right.
His book, it's fucking, phenomenal. I mean, they made that into a movie in, like early 80s.
Yeah.
But, even that, I mean, he's all over the place. He was always one, because, it's funny that you mentioned him, because I've been writing an Alien script for a little while, and my Alien script isn't based on anything he's done, but I've used basically every single book that he has written in that field, based on that. But he can take an element such as, as werewolf vampires and just make it so surreal and so terrifying. He's a phenomenal writer.
Well, I mean, I'm a firm believer that it's an awfully big universe for there not to be something else out there of intelligence. But I never, he didn't, certainly when we first knew each other, he never brought that stuff up. But when he did, you knew for a fact he believed.
Oh, yeah.
1,000%. I mean, there's no, he believes.
Yeah. Totally. I mean, he has like, Communion, which is a story, but his stuff afterwards, though, like, his, I'm drawing a blank on some of his Alien books, like, The Key is one of them, I know, and, he has The Greys. I could actually just turn around and read them off my shelf, probably. But, I just have them all lined up, and they're terrifying because, I mean, like you said, Todd, like, it's just not him, dipping himself into characters. Like, he is this character, and he truly believes, and and what he believes is terrifying beyond belief of, is it real or is it fake? And the way he just dwindles down into, just the bone of your mind. He's definitely a phenomenal writer, but I could totally see that where you're coming from.
Well, I mean, people have asked in the past, what's the movie that scares you the most, or what's the genre that scares you the most? The thing is, fictional stuff it scares me, but it's not on the same level as, just the depth of human nature, where we as humans can go and what we can do to each other. That's what really scares me. And so what always terrified me about, his books is that he believes, and he tells them from the standpoint that you believe. And so that's what made it interesting. Of course, we've fell away from werewolves at this point.
That's all good. Hey, Todd, I wanted to ask you, you've been known for mainly kind of genre-oriented, scripts and things like that, and stories. Is that something you've always been interested in and drawn to? Or have you attempted to write in other, sort of genres and stuff like that?
Well, I started out, I'm old school, so I started out at a time when if you wanted to break into Hollywood, you wrote horror because you weren't up against A-list writers. You weren't up against A-list anything. It was, in fact, when I first got started with Cunningham, people frowned. They looked down their noses. It was just Dimension and New Line making horror for the most part. And nobody else would do it until Scream came out, and then everybody and their grandmother was doing it.
Yeah.
And, back then, that's just, that was the rite of passage. You started, my biggest, the movies that I loved the most were back then there weren't fantasy movies. Fantasy is probably the genre that I loved the most. Mm-hmm. I grew up reading it and playing Dungeons and Dragons and that sort of thing, so I loved that. But for me, it was an action movie, and so that's what I assumed I would, I figured, you'd start with horror, and eventually my goal would be to get to the action movie. So after Jason X, the first thing I wrote was a thriller because I thought that was a nice segue into outside of horror. And it's not that I didn't love horror. I did. It's just horror at that time didn't pay a lot of money. And, guys, I love art, but I'm in this for the money. And so, I thought that was the next step was to, my goal was to get to the action movie. And then, like I say, after Scream, horror took off and, the money was great. And I enjoyed it. It was fun. And I still, I've got Heavenly Swords coming out, I think, September 2nd. And Heavenly Swords based on a video game. So it's more fantasy and action. And, there's, to some degree, there's no horror element to it. Well, there's no horror element to it. But, writers write. And that's the thing. It's a shame in Hollywood. You can be a producer, you can be an executive, and you can make any genre you want. But if you're a writer, you're screwed. You're stuck in the one genre. And it's not that that's a bad thing, but, writers are storytellers. It's not, I know there are guys who get into horror because that's all they want to do. And that's great. I have no problem with that. But I want to write all kinds of things.
Yeah. Do you find yourself writing a lot of things that never go anywhere at all? Because I was, I don't know how many years ago it was, but I was talking to...
Fucking Halloween 3, we're going to bring that up. I'm fucking still pissed off about that.
We should talk about that later, yes.
Well, no, what I mean is like, yeah. But I talked to the director. He's doing a lot of play stuff now, Ben Rock. But he did that movie Alien Raiders, and I had him on an early podcast of mine. And before the podcast, there's a lot of stuff kind of on the deal of stuff that he was working on. And then, a year later, that whole project he was working on totally fell through, and all this work he'd been doing for about a year was just, gone or, just put to pasture. Has that anything like that ever happened to you that you can talk about, or is that that's something you sign up for when you're a writer in Hollywood?
Yeah, that's just part of the business. I mean, no, absolutely. I mean, I wrote, I think before Jason X was made, I used to have the number in my head. It's 20 to 30 different screenplays that I wrote for Cunningham. Most of those Cunningham was an odd bird because, horror made him, Friday the 13th made him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, even though he'd done Spring Break and, broke out of that to some degree, but the thing that paid the bills was the horror. And, he did the house movies but he didn't, that's not what he wanted to do. What he wanted to do was win an Oscar. And so when I started there, he had me writing about, delinquent kids in Spanish Harlem and courtroom dramas. And I'm like, dude, I'm a moron from Kentucky. Let's do this horror thing and get this career started. And, I've been there 3 years before he was so frustrated with, Freddy versus Jason's development that he said, fine, we're just going to do a Jason movie. and that's how it, it's not like I went in there with anything brilliant. I was just the guy who was on staff getting paid. Right. And, so that's sort of how it started. But yeah, I mean, and then since then, the business, they tell you, if you'll write this script for nothing, that gets your foot in the door and then you're set. That is a lie. Don't believe that. If you want to be a writer, seriously, the business has changed. Every movie that you make, unless you write Guardians of the Galaxy or, unless you're Quentin Tarantino who you write that one thing that just explodes, unless you become a name brand, every movie, every screenplay, it's going to be a struggle. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I write. Lucy and I, we wrote, we were up for Fright Night. We did numerous drafts of Fright Night, outline only, pitches, and we pitched, when, Clint Culpepper, he's at, Screen Gems. We pitched him, then it ended up with DeLuca, and DeLuca took it to DreamWorks. We pitched there. But it's like, Hellraiser and Scanners and The Fly and Exorcist. I mean, because there for a while, all they wanted to do was remakes. Yeah. And, look, I don't want to do remakes. I want to do original movies. The truth is, my most successful movie is a remake. That's just My Bloody Valentine. Mm-hmm. We did Drive Angry and 3 people went to see it. So,
Drive Angry is fucking awesome. I bought that. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't able to make it to the theater because, me and little kids, I can never get away. But I bought that day one when it came out on Blu-ray.
Well, then I stand correct. 4 people.
Well, I mean, I think that's a movie that definitely found its audience when it hit the physical media. Because I mean, honestly, like, when I very first saw the trailer, I was like, holy shit, like what the fuck am I going to see, you know? And I actually went to I actually got to the theater, so I was one of those people. I was the only one in the theater, sadly. But yeah, I was just like, you know, when I watched it, I went in knowing that you wrote it, so I was expecting, you know, a lot of old school shit, and that's exactly what I got. So that, you know, that appealed to me, and anybody like us, you know, sitting here talking right now, they're going to enjoy something of that caliber because it touches every little segue from, you know, from horror to action, you know, all those genres just mixed into one. Mm-hmm. And
you know, it's funny. I actually learned a lot from that because I think at the end of the day, if you're a writer or a filmmaker, that's a mistake. Because if you look at the movies that cross-genred, Princess Bride, it wasn't just fantasy; it was also comedy. And it failed at the box office. If you look at Big Trouble in Little China, it wasn't just fantasy; it was also comedy, and it was also action. It was hard to define. And if you look at those movies, I think those movies do not do well. They certainly don't open well. They may become cult classics, but cult classics don't keep you employed.
Yeah.
And so that's, you know, and Nick even said after the release, you know, he spoke to Patrick and I both, and he was like, look, you know, 10 years from now, nobody's going to remember, and at this point, I forget the movie we were up against. He's like, nobody's going to remember that movie. And he's right. I don't even remember it now. And he's like, people will remember it. They'll find Drive Angry. They'll remember it. It'll have its following. It'll have its little cult following. And I mean, it may eventually. Certainly, you know, some of my favorite movies do that cross-genre thing, but I think as a new screenwriter, as a new writer, as a new director, you probably shouldn't do that. You should play by the rules. Stay within your genre, and I know it seems awfully silly to say that, but it's the truth. Get your career first, and then you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Well, I just killed the whole conversation.
No. You know, this actually.
Go ahead, Sean.
I was going to say this actually segues into Ginger Snaps, you know, because it was directed by John Fawcett, and it was written by Karen Walton. And Karen, I believe it was Karen Walton. It was her first screenwriting credit, I believe. Yeah, I'm thinking of the right person. Yeah, it was the first script that she had written, and her and John worked it together. And you know, the movie didn't do well at all, you know, until it hit HBO, he actually gave his actual copy, the film print, to someone in the US that wanted to show it, that had heard about it and wanted to show it. And then someone in the audience turned out to be a critic, wrote a really good review about it, and then all of a sudden HBO wanted to pick it up. And then from there, people actually started checking out the movie, and then it kind of grew legs, you know, so it's interesting that these movies, especially genre movies, end up doing that. You know, I mean, you know, George Romero's not making any money off of Night of the Living Dead, is he? I don't think he is. I mean,
it's public domain,
right? I mean, but now, you know, subsequent sequels and stuff like that, he was able to establish a career. But you know, the thing that he's most known for, you know, I don't think he's really seeing any residuals from that.
You know, John was the same way. John made nothing off of Halloween. That's why they did Halloween 2, was to sort of make a little bit of money. But you know, it's a tough business, certainly when you're breaking into it. And now, you know, the problem is the moment you make your first movie, then you're struggling all over again to make your next one. But
that's what I think. I mean, a lot of people want to break into Hollywood, and they think it's just something easy to do. Oh, it's art. Oh, I can do whatever I want. But you know, there's a lot of I've known a lot of people who've moved to LA and just couldn't get anything going, you know, after being there for a few years and had to move, you know, back home with their parents and things like that. I mean, it's a tough business, you know.
It is. I've been lucky. I've never, you know, I don't live in the mansion. I don't have the big fancy helicopter on the island off to the side, but
not yet anyway.
No, not yet. But I've certainly been lucky. I've always had, you know, one good job a year. And as long as you live below your means, as long as you put your money away and save it, then you can do what you got to do. But it's been an interesting journey. But you know, the thing that I've always liked about any movie, it's one of the reasons that I like. Growing up, certainly Halloween was my favorite of the franchises. Michael was more scary to me because he felt more real. Jason was more whimsical. and Freddy was just a pain in the ass. But what was interesting, what I loved about the Friday the 13th franchise is each one of those sequels is uniquely different. It's coming from a completely different place, and I like that. I mean, the first movie's not, Jason's not the killer. The second movie, Jason is the killer. That's a big departure.
Yeah.
The third movie goes into 3D and he gets the hockey mask. I mean, each one, it takes it somewhere different. Where you end up with Jason versus Carrie. The idea of Jason Takes Manhattan was a beautiful idea. It's actually Jason Takes a Boat, but still,
right.
They try to do something different. I always appreciate that. So that's what I like about Ginger Snaps, because, from the werewolf, in the werewolf genre, it's amazingly original.
Yeah.
Two girls who are, I don't know that they're necessarily suicidal, but they certainly are in love with the idea of suicide.
Yeah. I
don't know if they would have ever killed themselves before their 16th birthday, but they're certainly, and so just that element. I mean, from the moment that, I forget her name, when she walks in and she says the Baxter's fertilizer. And I'm like, wow, that's how they refer to the neighbor's dog, as fertilizer.
Is that Emily Perkins and Catherine Isabel?
Yeah.
Sisters.
Yeah, I can't, well, they're, wow, I'm drawing a complete blank. Can't remember their names in the movie. Obviously. Ginger,
Bridget and Ginger are the sisters.
Catherine was Bridget, right. Yeah, Bridget. I think it's Bridget Watkins. She says,
Yeah. Emily Perkins is Bridget, and that's her introductory scene, right? The garage door opens, and
yeah,
and you're like, well, there you go. Welcome to this movie.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of reminded me. I was watching this, and I was wondering, what year did Ghost World come out with these two?
Ghost
that was the next Ghost World.
Buscemi?
Yeah. Where the two
came out a year after. Probably.
Well, it's the two girls are very similar, kind of deadpan, and just kind of they're a little more quirky in Ghost World. Of course, it's more of a comedy, but they reminded me of like the goth, more of the goth kind of, dark but still funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's still like a wit to them.
I don't know. Like with this, like how Todd said it opens up. That was the one thing that always threw me with this movie. It was the kind of like the overbearingness of the goth aspect of of obsessed with death and suicide. It always kind of like a little bit over the top for me, and it's just their whole like dark and like brooding outlook on life. It was just, I don't know. That was always something that detoured me from. By the way, people, I'm not actually a fan of Ginger Snaps, so this might be a fun conversation.
That's
it's
good.
just
Now
always,
we have a varying base of opinion here, so that's good.
Yep.
Well, it's just like that always like just pushed me away, and I actually just watched it because it's been a while, and I remember watching it when it very first came out, and I didn't like it at all. I wouldn't say I had that same opinion because there were things that I really, really did enjoy about it. One being the practical effects and everything like that. The performance from Emily Perkins is pretty okay. She has that same face every time something happens that, oh my God, my eyes are as wide as they can be. So basically that sleepaway camp look with Alyssa Rose at the very end with mouth wide open and the eyes, it's like, every time she turns around. But back to the thing, it's just there's a little too much because it's not believable, because we all knew those kids. We all went to school, whether, whatever decade you went into, there were kids like that. There was the goth kids. There was, kind of like, they've always kind of been the goth kids. I don't know. I think goth kind of like that phrase is more overused in the 90s and leading up to the 2000s. But we all know those kids that would never really do it. Like Todd said, like they're obsessed with the idea, but they're never really going to do it. And I don't know. I think using that aspect and that tone for the movie, that threw me to where it's like we focused a little too much on that for that period of time. And that's kind of what always detoured me from really, really liking this movie, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, go ahead, Todd.
Well, I don't know if
I don't know if I read them as over the top because I was never, even though I knew kids just like that, I was never inside the circle enough to see them, live out their daily lives. But there were moments, certainly with Perkins. I know there was one moment when the kid, he's the kid who was selling the drugs out of the van.
Mm-hmm.
He shows up at the park and he calls to her and she's standing there with her sister. And this is after Ginger's been infected. And there's just an element of embarrassment that this guy's calling her out in front of everyone.
Yeah, it's like her mom calling her, back to the car after she drops her off or something.
And the way she approaches him, the way she walks, the way she won't make eye contact with him, she's always looking out of the side of her eyes. I loved that performance. I thought that was fantastic. I actually thought the two girls were great in it, and they're the ones who held me into the movie. And yes, I felt the same way. The whole thing with them, shooting their different suicides and all, it felt at first over the top, but, that was their thing, and I sort of accepted that. It was sort of the convention of theater, and I was like, okay, well, this is them. I'm going to accept that and go from there. I don't. There are elements of the movie that I don't love. Where you mentioned practical effects, I love the practical effects. I just don't think. I wanted the werewolf to look better, and I wanted the transformation to look better. I felt like that was, I wasn't as excited about that. Although, if you go
the werewolf
back and
does look a little rubbery at times.
A little bit. But, if you go back and you look at the Howling now, it doesn't really stand up. But, the truth is, at the time, when I first saw the Howling, that was Nightmare Central. And the same thing with American Werewolf, but we'll talk about those later.
Yeah. I saw this, I think, I'm trying to remember the first time that I saw this, and I believe I was in college at the time when it was came out, but I don't remember when it was, making the rounds in HBO, but I saw it around that time, probably between 2001 and 2003, and I remember not really being all that impressed with it because I was expecting, just a balls to the wall kind of werewolf movie. I wasn't really in the mood for some, parallel with, puberty or anything like that, so I kind of dismissed it at the time. But, and I haven't watched it since. I remember I'd bought it on DVD, then I kind of started it and wasn't able to finish it, and then the Blu-ray eventually came out, and I finally watched it again for the first time since I first saw it back in the early 2000s. And, I think I was impressed with how it aged well, I thought, because of the practical effects. Because, they were doing CGI back then.
And they chose not to.
And they chose not to, which was great. And it was a budgetary concern, a budgetary decision, which I liked seeing that they did a budgetary decision to go all practical. And I think probably back then it was actually still cheaper to do practical, maybe. But this time around, I was watching it and I was just thinking, this isn't really a horror movie. Maybe the last 20 minutes you can.
Yeah,
are the only horror
sure.
elements, but this is a coming of age story on a subject that I, as a guy, am not that familiar with going through. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that was interesting, and it's funny. There's three guys talking about a movie that's parallel. That the story parallels a woman having her period for the first time.
But we're guys, and right. I assume that you're both straight males, and so you dated, and you through high school and college, and you went into the world where you're with your girlfriend, and she's on her period, and you're dealing with it. This is the movie that explains why they were so horrible. It's because they were all werewolves.
Right? Exactly. Yes.
So we didn't know that at the time. That's the big secret. We're not allowed to know that, but now we do because we're ginger snaps, and so it all makes sense.
It does. But, it's great. And I appreciate, and I always, I said this in the last podcast with Day of the Dead. I feel like as I'm getting older, I'm kind of appreciating these types of stories more. I guess where I kind of get the subtext, and the subtlety to certain things. But I was thinking about this too when I was watching it. You see, there's Carrie, and that's the same subject matter. The movie Carrie, girl getting her period for the first time, kind of going into it through puberty and maturing into a woman, and the things that all those emotions bring out. Same thing with Ginger Snaps, and it was obviously modeled. It's inspired by Carrie for sure. But has there been a movie about a guy going into puberty? I mean, those are all sex comedies.
They are,
right?
Yeah. I don't know that there's anything that. Well, I mean, I'm sure there is. It's one that takes it seriously, and the first one comes to mind is Teen Wolf. But
right, yeah, Teen Wolf.
I know there's. There's got to be. I'm drawing a blank.
There's gotta be.
I'm
I
sure
was trying to think myself, like, is there anything like that? But
Well, see, that's something I actually compared this to, is Ginger Snaps the Teen Wolf, because there's this, I know that it's, we have the drama, we have the horror, but there is a huge little, like, this slap stickiness to this movie.
Yeah.
Where there's a ton of comedy, and which I enjoy. I enjoy the, the comedic horror aspect for sure. But at times it felt like at the beginning there is like a sense of comedy because of how dark they are. It's like, look how dark we are. This is funny, and it is humorous to an extent. But this one, and we started talking about kind of how certain movies do the genre mix-ups, and this is definitely one of them that it felt like for me, because of all the comedic aspect, especially the tail. Oh yeah, the tail thing kept popping up, and I thought that would pay off in a way, but it was just like a small little element that they threw in there in 2 or 3 scenes in order to get a laugh. Yeah. And that's what it felt like to me.
I thought that at first too, but then there's the scene where she's trying to, I don't know how much spoilers you want to get into, but she's trying to get rid of it, you know, and and I think that the whole tale was a setup to kind of get to that point, to have her at a desperate moment trying to get rid of it.
I feel like we have to talk spoilers. If you haven't seen Ginger Snaps at this point, you need to go to hell and then go watch it and come back.
Well, it's been 14 years.
Yeah, I think so.
I think the unwritten rule is 7.
Is that the rule?
I mean,
I don't know.
We'll give a warning right now. If you haven't seen,
in order to talk about this movie, there's definitely got to be spoilers.
Yeah.
In the world of Twitter, you basically have release day, and then it all starts coming out.
You have a day, yeah.
You have one day, and sometimes not even that. So. But,
then you have the douchebag. I thought everybody saw it already.
I don't know.
Fucking 2 days.
I don't have a problem with the goth element, and I wouldn't even say that. I mean, I guess to some degree they're goth. It seems more that just they're so socially awkward.
Right.
But but look, we can't condemn that, because the truth is the majority of horror fans, all of us, because we felt awkward when we were kids, we gravitate to horror because it's a world that's unacceptable by the normals. And it's also a world, like if you go to the conventions, horror fans are the sweetest, kindest people around, and there's a camaraderie that exists there. And
yeah, totally.
I feel that in this kind, and I love that you mentioned Carrie, because I felt the same way. But what I liked about this is it's not just one girl who's all alone with her abusive mother. There's 2 girls who really love each other, and I got to tell you, and again, I am a big fan of anybody who tackles a genre and comes at it from a different direction. And I will forgive, lots of things when they do that. The moment when Mimi Rogers picks up Perkins in the car and they have that little conversation, you realize she has found a dead body on their property, and she knows one or both of her girls has killed someone. And she's okay with it. She's going to protect them. I love that part. In fact, I know at one point Perkins turns to her and says, Mom, this isn't your fault. And she says, yes, it is. And I thought for sure it was going to come out she's a freaking werewolf.
I was waiting for that too.
But they didn't. They did. And then I was like, wait a minute. No, because the werewolf got run over. Wait a minute. Well, maybe she bit the werewolf again. So this was all playing out in my head. And then I was like, wait, I should probably watch. But no, I love, the truth is, this is a movie that, you're right. It's not what you would call a horror movie until the last part of it. But boy, I really enjoyed the characters back and forth, and I even liked the guys who were basically just red shirts. But I liked that. I liked they were there. So.
It gives a chance to, for, the character Catherine Isabel plays, Ginger, it gives her a chance to, to evolve, especially with the male element, because of, the teenage teeny bopper cheerleader thing, which, they're not cheerleaders. What are they fucking playing? Like badminton or something? What the fuck is that?
No, it was no.
Like lacrosse?
Yeah. So it's based in Canada, so. Whatever those Canadians play up there. I don't know.
So I mean, they're doing that, which I thought was cool, rather than being on a cheerleading team and then sitting off to the side, and watching. I do like the element that like they actually were playing, but all those girls that snicker and laugh. But you actually got to see Catherine Isabel's character, blossom into a different sexuality, more sexuality. And I did enjoy that because obviously it's Catherine Isabel. But
what's her biggest movie? Is it this? Is this the movie?
One of those actresses that I see and I recognize.
This is what really hit her off. I mean, she was in she was in Insomnia. I mean, she was in Freddy vs. Jason.
Oh, she was in American Mary.
Yeah, I mean, she was in American Mary, which we talked about on the podcast before. But
this is the one she's probably most known for, right?
Yeah, I think so.
This is her big break into more, I guess, and more or less fan base, like more fandom than popularity and theatrical releases or whatever.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
All right, we've covered everything.
Recently her career has really blossomed. But one thing you did mention, Sean, was the Canadian aspect, which our listeners, of course, this is a Canadian movie, and that's definitely something I wanted to dive into, and that's where I think a lot of this kind of between like the cinematography and the feel, because even though this is made in 2000, this is a fucking 90s movie. Yeah, through and through. It feels like a 90s movie. And, with this whole, like, the Canadian horror and, Canuxploitation element. I mean, we had films like, Cube, and we had, Decoys, and we had, Witchboard 3. They all feel in this same world and same place. Because of that comedic, because even in the the 70s and the especially the 80s with horror films in Canada, there was always this kind of underlying humor in these movies that sometimes you didn't see until you watched it a couple times. It's stuff like. For Cube example is a perfect example. I imagine you all seen Cube. I know Sean has.
I'm a huge, but I love the director Vincenzo. I can never pronounce his name. Vincenzo Natali.
Yeah, he directed Splice though.
He's a badass. So Splice is awesome. Seriously, Splice is awesome.
But no, I mean with Cube there is that. There's a huge horror element and of course a big sci-fi, but there's a lot of comedy in that movie. And, with Ginger Snaps, it's a little more, slapstick, like I said, but they do follow this Canadian element where they're mixing the horror and comedy together. Yeah. And that's one thing I did enjoy. Knowing it was from Canada going in, it's almost like it's this completely different genre. With me, because I love Canuxploitation. I love Canadian horror films because there's something about them that's completely different from the Americanized horror films. There's between, like I said, cinematography, because Ginger Snaps doesn't do your traditional bullshit of how it's shot.
No, I was gonna say, like, if it was shot in the U.S., it would be like I Know What You Did Last Summer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like the camera's just standing. The cameras fucking sit down and it films. Like there's always movement around. There's the handheld stuff. The camera is always moving, even when there's people are walking. There's long tracking shots and stuff like that. The blood, especially like like we've been talking about, the last 15 minutes of this, it gets truly terrifying.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it does.
And it does change into a different movie because just with a werewolf at the end in that closed corners, small area, jumping on the one point it jumps up onto, I don't know what, what I'm talking about? It just like leaps and it makes a big clashing noise. And that's terrifying.
Yeah, it gets really tense. I mean, once they're kind of in the closet, they're like in that closet, and it's pitch black. Like it makes a turn from kind of dark and comedic to all of a sudden it's like terrifying. And it really does work. Like I don't know if it works because it's kind of more lighthearted near the beginning, then all of a sudden it makes the turn.
No, it does. I mean, but that's the whole thing that with Canadian horror did was that they took those simple elements and they made it 10 times, 20 times more scarier towards the end. It's like okay, we got the comedy out of the way. Now let's make this shit serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, the process that this movie follows. And that's something I really did enjoy. Because watching a lot of Canadian horror growing up, that's what this felt like.
Yeah.
Wish we had.
Well, I certainly watched a crap load of My Bloody Valentine.
Well, yeah, I mean that's of course that's a Canadian horror film, and that's the same thing. There's a lot of sex comedy type stuff in the beginning, and a lot of underlying comedy. Yeah. But towards the end when kind of when Harry, it's Harry, right?
It's I think
Harry,
the killer.
Yeah. It just gets really fucking intense. And I remember watching My Bloody Valentine when I was growing up, and I saw it at a very, very young age, not really attaching myself to it because it wasn't doing that traditional thing that American films did. It was doing something new. And I honestly, that's probably one of the very first Canadian films that I did see that I actually, because I saw that, like I said, very, very young. So that came out in like 81. I probably saw it, like 80, 88, 89. But yeah, there's just, it's the same thing with that. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Todd.
Well, the thing that I loved about it the most is, you had all of these other slashers that had come before it, and it was the first one that didn't play teenagers. I mean, they were all adults. They were, which is what I kind of liked about it, because it wasn't just the slapstick teen comedy. It was, adults in these situations, which was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, a Black Christmas was a Canadian, even though those aren't, high schoolers, they're girls in a dorm. The Changeling was another one. Curtains that was recently released, by, Snaps. That was the way that,
Changeling and Curtains are both terrifying to me. The opening.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Remarkable.
Is like, they hit hard on that opening and then it lightens up.
Yeah.
But then it gets serious again. The same thing with, Happy Birthday to Me. That was another one that did the same thing. Prom Night. Like, there's a lot of like little comedic parts in Prom Night, but when they get to the end with the killer, like you hold your breath. And, it's just, I notice a lot of Canadian films doing that. And, I'm trying to get it all around point here. But Ginger Snaps does follow that. So I'm done talking about Canadian fucking film. That's
I wanted to bring up the werewolf design, because Todd, you said this one thing that you didn't think was the strongest point of the movie. We brought up Vincenzo Natali, and actually in the commentary I found out that Vincenzo actually helped John Fawcett with a lot of the design aspects of the creature and a lot of the storyboarding of the actual film. And especially all the werewolf sequences, he actually helped storyboard all those.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty interesting.
We just accidentally segued into that.
For the werewolf movie, I mean, it seems like there's three basic werewolves. There's the Wolfman werewolf, which is more human than wolf. There's the, I guess there's American Werewolf in London, Ginger Snaps. There's sort of the hybrid, which is sort of basically big wolf but has humanistic characteristics. Mm-hmm. And then there's the dog soldiers, this thing that's walks on hind legs, I guess. Yeah. As opposed to sort of the dog creature. So I like that variety. I like that each one. I have my favorites, and certainly with Wolf and that's more of the going back to the Wolfman character, but I like all those.
The design thing that I noticed was a bit odd on this one, and I didn't really have a problem with it. It was exactly what I was expecting, but I was surprised.
Very hairless.
Yeah, exactly. That's just what I was going to say. Like, there's not a lot of hair on them, and that was actually a deliberate choice where they were trying to be different, but I think in this case it was trying to be too different, you know what I mean, than what we're used to, because they kind of looked like just giant hairless rats to a certain extent.
And that's another thing is they do focus on the hair element and aspect, because I mean she has hair, like she's shaving her legs at one point. She has a wound that has hair growing out of it. So that's another thing I had in my notes that threw me off a little bit.
No, I agree. That was one of the elements that story wise annoyed me, because you're setting up that she's going to get hairy, and then when she actually makes her full transformation, she doesn't. Mm-hmm. She's just the opposite of that. Because
even the original werewolf that we see in the beginning isn't that hairy.
But for me, it was, I think the biggest element for me was probably the transformation, because after The Howling, after American Werewolf in London, I want to see a transformation like that. And I love that, and I mean, they did to a degree, and I'm certain they weren't dealing with a giant budget. Mm-hmm. But, and look, I love the movie. We're being nitpicky now, but but that was
the transformation is always a cool aspect to any werewolf movie.
Yeah,
and this was all off screen. Most of the transformation, it all happens in the back of the van or whatever.
In the back of the van, yeah, and then we probably don't get our best look at the thing until the kid's sitting there at the end of the hallway, and it's sort of when they do the whole eating of the blood part.
Yeah.
I think that's the best look that we get of it. And, at that point, I don't have a problem with it. It's just, and I guess the transformation was the only thing about me.
Yeah.
But then, you take a movie like Silver Bullet, and you're like, you know what? I'll take this transformation any day of the week.
Yeah.
And I love Silver Bullet, too. I just don't like that transformation.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's funny because Silver Bullet's in my top 5. No big deal.
Hey, no spoilers on their top 5s just yet.
Oh. It's in my honorable mention.
Well, let's get to the top 5s in a bit here, but I want to kind of wrap up talking about the movie as a whole. If someone hasn't seen Ginger Snaps, and they like or kind of like werewolf movies, is this something you guys would recommend to them?
No.
Brad, no. Okay. I mean, I would. I think, like Todd's been saying, like it's a different spin on the genre, on the werewolf movie, and I like the two actresses. I like the dynamic of the sibling dynamic and their relationship. My brother and I are like really close, so I saw like a lot of similarities in like our relationship a little bit, and these two sisters.
Why? Because you have your fucking period every month.
Yeah. So I liked that aspect, like Todd said as well. Like it wasn't one person alone dealing with this; they had each other, and I thought that interplay was well. And then even like the aspect with the parents, I liked how the parents were trying to be good parents. Like you can tell there was no abuse in the family. They were both. I mean, the dad was kind of standoffish, but the parents were trying. The mom was trying to be cool and just not read into it too deep, because all she thinks is just her daughter's changing,
Well, she's also dangerously happy.
Right, yeah. So
which
all
also
those
that's
elements,
probably the reason why they want her to commit suicide.
Yeah, probably. But all those elements, I think, were the glue that kind of that held this movie together for me. And so I would definitely recommend it. And the last 20 minutes of just kind of batshit craziness, I'm all about recommending.
I absolutely would recommend it, and it's for the reasons you just said. And if you're recommending werewolf movies, there are hundreds of werewolf movies, and so many of them they just sort of merge together because they're all kind of the same thing. But this one stands out because it's got something different going on, and that's what I appreciate about it. It may not be perfect, but it's certainly got elements that there's. I was going through lists of werewolf movies just thinking about them, and I was like, oh yeah, I saw that. And I haven't thought about it until I just now saw it in this list. And all of the movies that I wrote down first, they're the ones that jumped out at me because there's something special about them.
Right.
And I go through and I look at, oh yeah, that was a good movie. But you know what? If it's not popping into my brain when I'm thinking of werewolf movies, and there's maybe it's missing that special element. I feel like Ginger Snaps has a special element.
Yeah. I do too.
But I'm also on my period right now.
I'm going to size up the special features here. This is one of their Scream Factory's collector's editions, and this thing's pretty stacked. There's about an hour documentary that was made for this release. documentary about the making of the movie, the interview the director, John Fawcett, and they interview Karen Walton. They also interview Emily Perkins and one more person that I can't place his name. But so that's there. One kind of side note I thought when I was watching this, it looks like they just kind of went to a room where someone was editing, like in the background, somebody sitting at an Avid and just editing away on some project. And they stuck like a werewolf bust like on the corner to kind of cover them up a little bit. But I thought that was kind of amusing. I was like, well, they're cutting, there's some budgetary corners you're cutting right here. So it looks like they knocked all those interviews out in one day, you know. But it's a lot of good information.
And it is the best this movie's ever looked. I was impressed by the way, it's because I was thinking, I was like, man, this is, I actually forgot it was a collector's edition, which, I mean, we try to decipher exactly how they pick their collector's editions, but I just think it's probably more material that they have
right.
Than normal. But, the video in this looked very, very good.
Yep.
And the audio was outstanding. The audio really, really stood out on this one. So,
cool.
This is definitely an upgrade.
Yeah, I was going to ask you because I was trying to listen. Like, I watch movies when everyone goes to bed and have to wear headphones, and something's up with my headphones where only the right speaker works now. So.
Oh my God!
I had to kind of try to Jimmy rig it so it came into both speakers. So I was listening in mono.
No, I mean it sounds great. It shakes the house at times. Of course, all the screaming that goes on, and especially the last 15 minutes, it's very bombastic. It's definitely shaken. So
yeah,
pretty cool.
I like the music too.
Oh, the music's great. The score is awesome.
Wonderful.
and it's also the soundtrack stands out for any of kind of like metal people from the 90s. Like if you as I know, Fear Factory is on there a couple times during the soundtrack. But yeah, I always dig watching 90s movies like that had those types of soundtracks because that's the music I listened to back then. So watching it again I haven't seen the movie in probably 14 years. I forgot everything with the music, and I was digging the music quite a bit, and that sounds great as well.
I still it's in my loop. It's one of there's hundreds of movies in my loop, but it's one of the movies that I write to as far as the score is concerned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the score is really good. I was surprised at how good it was, and I've been kind of humming the tune, like the main theme, like all day long. As far as the other special features go, there's a 30-minute. I didn't finish this because it's a 30-minute roundtable discussion about puberty in horror films, and moderated. It was moderated. I didn't get all the names of who it's moderated by, but is it Alexa? She was. It's what's her name?
I don't know, Sean.
Alexa Caroline or Caroline or something like that.
You butcher names.
Hold on, I'm trying to think.
You're trying to think or pronounce?
Dang it. I can't remember. I'm horrible. Anyway, so it's a handful of women talking all about, like, the movies like Carrie and how they relate to how ginger snaps and periods. So I didn't stick around too long for that one this morning. And then there's a handful of other ones in there that I didn't get to. There looks like there's a few kind of things brought over from the DVD. So
cool.
But what I wanted to mention was there's two commentaries, and I didn't get to listen to the one with a writer, which I'm really interested in listening to because it's this was kind of her first script. But the director is very man, that guy did from the moment the movie starts to the end, he is just on point, just talking about every scene. It sounds like he came super prepared, and it was just a great listen. As far as a director commentary, there was no need of a moderator or anything. He just had stories, and he brought up all these points with the making of, and he even brought up that Emily Perkins is wearing a wig in this movie, and I knew there was a lot of hair there, but I never really kind of thought that was a wig, I guess.
That's cool.
That changes the whole movie for me now.
Does it?
Yeah.
It was a very good documentary, or not documentary, but a very good commentary. But it's probably, for me, it was the highlight of checking out all the special features was listening to that. So, let's see here.
Well, it's nice that they packed this one, because this is a huge, cult favorite among people. Because that was one thing when they announced it. I kind of forgot about it, and then you just saw everybody just go, ape shit over it, and I forgot how big the fan base for this movie is. And I thought that was pretty cool that Shout Scream actually looked into picking this up, because they're definitely listening to their fans.
Yep. Yeah, it's a good one. I highly recommend this one. Well, do we have anything else to say about Ginger Snaps, or are we good?
I think we're good, Sean.
I think
we can jump into our top 5.
Yes, let's do our top 5 werewolf movies.
I said, don't you blame the movies. Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative.
Sean, you want to go first?
Why do I always got to go first? What are you talking about?
Let the guest go first.
Todd, we extend the invitation to you if you can go through your top 5 werewolf movies.
No.
All right, fine. Moving along. No, it's good.
Well, is it fair that I put Ginger Snaps in my top 5?
Yeah.
Or should
we do
that. Pick one of my honorable mentions.
No,
I'll do my honorable mentions first, because certainly Werewolf of London and Chaney's Wolfman are in there. I probably would not put the Wolfman remake in there, because
no.
And it's not. It's funny. I thought about it. It's not one of those movies that I don't. I barely remember much of it. So
it's pretty bad.
It doesn't really count to me. Silver Bullet.
That movie, I don't remember anything.
Silver Bullet is definitely an honorable mention. It didn't make the top list, but growing up, I loved it. Did not like the creature effects, but I loved everybody in it. Mm-hmm. Loved everything about it. I love the fact that the lead is a paraplegic. I mean, what in the world? Seriously? Yeah. And plus, I had read King's book, and I still have it to this day with all Bernie Wrightson's art in it. So I mean, it's an interesting book, because the book takes place, it's month after month after month, so it's different than the movie by a lot. But I love the book, so it's certainly an honorable mention. Ginger Snaps by far would be in my top 5. And again, I like movies that are different. I like movies that tell different stories. And Ginger Snap comes at the werewolf movie completely different, and I appreciate that, and I love it for that reason, and so that's why it's in my top 5. American Werewolf in London. I mean, we could go hours on that movie alone. It's funny. It's just a perfect werewolf movie. It's terrifying. I mean, when they're walking through the moors, I'm scared. And plus, it makes you want to drink Dr. Pepper. I mean, everything about it is good. And, probably the scariest werewolf movie when I was growing up was The Howling. That transformation, that first transformation is just simply horrifying. And still to this day, I watch it, I get goosebumps. So The Howling is by far, granted, maybe the werewolf in the very end is a little funny, but but I do love the movie, and I love everything about the movie. Wolf gets in my top 5, which people will probably hate me for, but I love when you do it right, and I felt like Wolf did it right. I felt like you have 3 tremendous actors brought in, and I love the whole idea of the transformation, because what I liked about it was the whole sensory perception thing that they played on. And I loved seeing Nicholson come in and use his chops in a werewolf movie. I mean, I grew up in a time period when A-list actors didn't do anything anywhere near genre. And so that's one of those movies that, for that reason, it's to me, it's a fun movie. Is it a perfect movie? No, but it's a movie that if it's on, I'll watch it. I'll stop what I'm doing and I'll watch it.
and these are in no particular order, by the way.
Yeah, no problem.
But I would probably say in the last, in the last 20 years, my favorite werewolf movie is Dog Soldiers.
Yeah.
It's, I love the dialogue. I love the acting. It doesn't.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
I think I like it better before they get in the house, but I love the creature designs. I love and I just love that it almost feels like Southern Comfort with werewolves. I mean, there's just you guys remember that? Did you ever see Southern?
Oh, it's fucking Southern Comfort's the shit. Yeah.
It is.
I need to get that Shout Factory Blu-ray. I haven't seen it yet, so I need to watch it.
It's a gorgeous movie, and it's a scary movie. It terrified me when I was a kid. But, it feels like that because this is a werewolf movie that feels like it's real because you have these real characters and they're showing real emotion and they're telling real stories and there's camaraderie there. And it's, so those are my, again, no particular order. Ginger Snaps, Wolf, Howling, American Werewolf in London, Dog Soldiers.
Cool.
Yeah, there's actually a part, something that really, really stood out in Dog Soldiers that just shows the, like, between writing and characters and making, like you said, that camaraderie between, all those, soldiers is that when they're, before, they endure all the wolf shit, when they're sitting around the campfire and Sergeant Wells, is telling that story about the guy who died. The tattoo.
Oh,
instead of telling a story about people missing from the fucking woods or hikers missing in these woods, he tells a story that's really, really interesting. It has nothing to do with the movie. Yeah. And it's just one of those things that it's a creepy story, has nothing to do with the movie, but you're so drawn to those characters and just him alone. Mm-hmm. And I think that says a lot for the movie and the characters just with that one story. It just I don't know. Yeah, like you said, there's just something about the characters and you want to see everybody live pretty much. Between like Spoon and I mean, Captain Ryan's a total fucking asshole, but between Milburn, Spoon, Kirkley, like they're all super badass. Like you're fighting for these guys,
Well, I mean, you think about it. Those three actors are kind of phenomenal because I'm a huge fan of character actors. Just like I love how different people will come at a genre in a different way. I love that. I also love the character. Like I loved Bill Paxton before he was Bill Paxton. And I loved Bill Fichtner before, and of course Bill Fichtner is still, a lot of people wouldn't know who he is, but he's that guy who, when you see him, you recognize him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's phenomenal, everything he does. Yeah.
And these three guys are the same way. It's Sean Pertwee, I believe is his name.
Yeah.
He's fantastic. Kevin McKidd, I mean, everything he's been in, he's fantastic. Liam Cunningham is phenomenal. So you get those three guys in a room together, that's kind of awesome. I'd love to have a movie with those three guys in the same room. So you take that, and then and I love how they do the werewolves in this thing.
Yeah.
I love it. I love just those glimpses. It almost reminds me of Alien because they're tall and they're elongated and they don't look human to me. So that was just beautiful.
Well, I mean, whenever we have werewolves, we think about ways to kill them. But when they change and look, I mean, obviously you look at them, they're werewolves. Mm-hmm. But they're fucking ginormous.
Yeah, they're huge.
And they have a, humanistic, like, just standing up, and their long arms, their long fucking fingers. It's like, oh shit, this isn't the regular wolf that's going to be busting through the windows. These are going to be tearing down the walls. Like, we can't board up the doors for these things.
Well, these are my favorite kind of this is my favorite werewolf because, it's not like the hairy guy from Wolfman. It's not like, okay, he's the guy you could see at a freak show. It's not, and it's also not like a wolf that you could say, oh, he's just a big wolf. You see this out in the woods, you're screwed.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't something you can just pull out a shotgun and get rid of. You see this in the woods, you're messed up. I mean, it's going to eat you. So I like the werewolves in this.
Yeah. All right. Want me to do mine? Let me get to Brad's because Brad's gonna have all these off the wall stuff that I've never seen.
Dude, Why do you have to put me in that situation?
I think it's fine. I'm jealous. I'm just jealous of you, Brad.
Saying your dick.
Fine.
We're gonna move on.
All right.
All right.
I'm the asshole. Go ahead.
Well, my honorable mentions: Underworld, Rise of the Lycans, Cursed, and Van Helsing. I'm just kidding.
Oh, I was about to say, but as soon as you said Underworld, Rise of the Lycans, I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? All right,
I'm
so
totally
you're the
kidding,
asshole.
but I do have a soft spot for that movie, but it's a piece of crap. Anyway, moving on. Here's my real.
Which one's the piece of crap?
Well, I mean, I have this weird soft spot for all the Underworld movies, but I love Rise of the Lycans because it's just, I don't know.
No, I mean, look, I get you. They're popcorn fun movies. There's a level that are forgettable, and I could not right now tell you one movie from the other in that franchise. Just the same, I can't tell you anything about Resident Evil for the same reason. But I appreciate them. And the thing that annoys me about the Stephen Sommers, you said it, Van Helsing, is that it's a great idea to bring the classic movie monsters together, and you just felt like even though it's fun, it just felt like it could have been so much better.
Yeah,
but CGI fuckfest is what it is.
Dear God, it's horrible. I saw that thing in the theater, and I almost walked out, but I was like, I paid my money. I'm sitting through this thing.
Yeah, I actually never saw it in its entirety. I was just done.
But anyway, on to my real list. My honorable mentions, and I kind of threw in my honorable mentions things that have werewolves in them but are not necessarily all about the werewolf.
God.
Gee, I gotta be a jerk.
They're gonna fucking mention one. Let me guess. You have movies that even mention a werewolf.
No. The Monster Squad is on there. Wolfman's got nards, man. That line is just classic. Yeah. Trick or Treat. I like the whole the werewolf scene in that one.
Spoiler alert.
It's not a spoiler alert.
Hasn't been 7 years.
God. Those are the only two kind of semi, with werewolves. The other ones, Teen Wolf is in there. The original Wolfman, I watch that every year with my kids. Mm-hmm. I have a soft spot for that. The original, of course. And American Werewolf in Paris. It's not as good as Werewolf in London, but I don't know if it's when it came out. I was working at Sam Goody, and that soundtrack was everywhere.
Oh, dude, fucking Paris kicks ass, man.
But I like it. So, and then like you said, Todd, Wolf is in my honorable mentions because mainly because of Jack Nicholson, playing a werewolf. I love how he is in that movie. He's intense. So
Spader's not too shabby though. There's a moment when he goes down to sniff on Pfeiffer's hoo-hoo, and I'm like, wow, you just don't see that in a lot of movies.
Yeah, you just don't. James Spader was amazing at just playing the ultimate sleazeball, and that really was. Oh my god,
fantastic! I mean,
he's even pretty in Pink.
Yeah,
He plays a fucking asshole.
But I would be curious if he did that on his own or if that was scripted, that he just he's sitting there and he's sniffing all over her face and he just drops down and sticks his face between her legs. I'm like, duh.
I think that was improv, day of.
I gotta think
even when he was in the cameo, when he was in The Office, he was like that.
Yeah. He was crazy. So I like that.
So my top five in no particular order. Dog Soldiers is in there. We've talked that to death, but that's just a fantastic movie. And I remember renting this not knowing what the hell it was. I just liked the cover, and man, I was blown away on how good it was. To this day, it's one of my favorite war / monster movies. It's fantastic, and then sorry, I'm battling this sore throat here.
Sean, you okay?
I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm all right. I'll work through it. But it introduced me to Neil Marshall, and I've loved every one of Neil Marshall's movies. Yeah. So this was the movie that kind of introduced me to him, and I love that he takes things he likes from other movies and that have influenced him, and he really works them into the movies. I think creatively. So next is The Howling. We did a show on this, and so I don't need to say too much more about it, but. It's just such an off the wall movie, and the transformation, it's dated, but it's still pretty great, and so that one's there. Silver Bullet is in my top five. I think mainly because like you mentioned, Todd, they have a paraplegic hero, and freaking Gary Busey.
Yeah,
I mean,
plays Gary Busey that kicks ass.
Gary Busey's fear face at the end of the movie, where it's like every muscle in his face is contracting, is freaking awesome. Now, granted, he was probably on every drug known to humans at that point, but still, I'm glad he did that for that day because it made a great little moment.
But I agree that the creature's probably not the strongest point. Doesn't he use like a baseball bat or something like that in this one? Or am I thinking of another one?
Baseball bat.
Yeah, he picks up a baseball bat and knocks the crap out of somebody with it. But he looks like, even on the bridge before Corey shoots him in the eye. It looks like a stuffed bear walking. And it's. I love the guy behind the werewolf. I love the guy that played that. I mean, it would have been a great movie if you just put a little hair on him and let him, look like the Wolfman, because he's got such a sinister. He was I can't remember his name. He was in what's the Eastwood
People
movie?
Under the Stairs.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, what's the Eastwood movie where they go to Grenada?
Is it Everett McGill who we're talking about, right?
Dune.
He's in Dune, yes.
License to Kill.
He's in an Eastwood movie.
Heartbreak Ridge?
Heartbreak Ridge. I love him in Heartbreak. He's a dick in that. He plays a dick in a lot of things. But no, he's great. I'm sorry, I took over your
no, it's all good.
Silver Bullet.
Where am I here? Silver Bullet. Ginger Snaps is on there, like we've mentioned. It's it's just a creative take on the werewolf thing. And then American Werewolf in London is on there. And I don't think I need to dive too much more into that one, but that's just a fantastic werewolf movie. It's one of my favorites.
Oh.
So we're very similar there.
Yeah. Brad, what do you have for us?
Oh, God. I'm going to have to do a top 10. Sorry. No, I mean, of course, these are in no order. I'm just going to shout out the ones because, I mean, of course, Dog Soldiers, like we mentioned, Silver Bullet, The Howling, American Werewolf in London, all those are in there. One that I really like, it's a comedic horror film. It's from Spain. It's called Game of Werewolves. Also known as Attack of the Werewolves in the UK. But it's just, I mean, the special effects are fucking phenomenal. It's basically this writer, comes back to his, hometown that's completely, like, almost abandoned, meets up with his best friend from back in the day, and they battle werewolves. Because werewolves have taken over the town. It's hilarious.
All right, I'm down. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, Game of Werewolves, like Los Lobos Erga.
Lobos de Erga.
Thank you, Sean. But yeah, Game of Werewolves, Attack of the Werewolves, same movie. Something that always stuck out for me back in the 90s. One of the things that I rented from Blockbuster that I still love to this day was Project Metal Beast. The fucking guy that injects himself with blood from a werewolf and basically becomes a fucking unstoppable beast. It's just that's always fun. We talked about Wolfen, which has always been one of my favorites. A cop in New York basically is hunting down whoever's these animal attacks that are happening through New York City. Some truly terrifying moments in that movie, which is of course based off the novel of Whitley Strieber. Love that one. Something that's not that much of a werewolf movie, but I still consider it, was Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Oh yeah, I'm all about that. I love that movie.
So like Christopher Gaines,
you're right. That's not really a werewolf movie.
Yeah, no. But it has a lot of has some of those elements, and anytime I get to bring up anything that Mark Dacascos is in, I will, because he's fucking phenomenal in that movie.
Great movie. Have you seen the deleted footage?
No, I didn't.
Oh my!
I have the director's cut on DVD.
I don't know if I've
has it. We can do spoilers on that one, right?
Yeah, totally.
You think about it, because you don't know. Have you seen the scene where Mark basically instructs the other guy how to fight?
Yeah.
See, that scene wasn't in the original release. That was so you guys have seen as the director's cut. So when I first
I've seen like the 2 hour and like 30 minute cut. It's like 150, I think.
Yeah. So when I first saw the movie, that moment was cut because there's a moment where I haven't seen it forever, where they come up on, I don't know, thugs out in the middle of nowhere. And so Mark gets off his horse and beats the shit out of them. And that's it.
Great fight scene,
You cut away and you go. But in the director's cut, you actually see him sort of train the other guy how to fight. So in the absence of having that moment, throughout the movie, you don't realize that the other guy actually is an ass kicker.
Yeah.
So when you get to that moment towards the end of the movie, when he goes all kick-ass, you don't know he can until you're like, oh, well, of course he could. He's been traveling with this guy forever. So it's a very interesting, because I don't know how to make that call as to whether you keep that moment in the beginning of the film that sort of sets up that he can fight, or you don't. It's really interesting. I love that movie for that reason.
Yeah.
Did I make any sense whatsoever?
No. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I saw it originally in the theater because for some reason it came to our fucking theater in
I saw it in the
Florida. And when it came out on DVD, that's when the director's cut. And I guess there's probably like maybe 15 minutes that was missing. But I've watched the director's cut ever since then, and it's definitely one of my favorite like action movies, horror films of that time. Another one that I always liked, it was from the 90s. It was surprising how good it was. It was directed by Eric Red, who, of course, is responsible for The Hitcher. And did Eric Red? No, Eric Red didn't direct The Hitcher, but he wrote The Hitcher. But anyways, Eric Red did, a bunch of, he's a writer for like Blue Steel and fucking Body Parts, some great horror films that he directed, one called Bad Moon. It was basically this guy that is a wolf dealing with it. And it was cool. It's based off a novel and everything, but it was just them focusing on, just him. It's kind of a character piece at times. I mean, more or less, it's that 90s horror aspect too, which we all know what happened with the 90s horror movies back in the day. But yeah, Michael Paré is in it, and Meryl Hemingway. I know that sounds like an odd cast to have in this movie, but it's quite decent.
It is. Actually, it would. If I had thought about it, it would have been on my. Not my top 5, but it certainly would have made my honorable mention. It's a fun little movie, and I'd read the book back when I was young.
Yeah,
and liked the book.
And my number 1, I wish this film would get more love. So if any of my listeners are listening to it, it's on DVD. It's you can track it down. It's not hard to find, but it is very not known. It's called Full Eclipse. It has Mario Van Peebles, but it's basically the police department in California has a special team of officers that are fucking werewolves.
I've seen it. Wow, you are pulling up. Yeah, that's one you could. That one didn't get a theatrical release.
No, that was a made-for-TV movie, actually.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah. And this movie's just so badass because it's a fucking police department of werewolves.
It is.
But it's so fucking good. It's like early 90s.
Favorite werewolf movie?
Yeah, pretty much.
Right,
I love all the same movies we talked about. I mean, Dog Soldiers is a better movie than this.
Don't back down your opinion.
No, I'm not going to back down to that. But as far as entertaining me endlessly, and something that I saw such a young age, and something that I always known about with and kind of like the underground, kind of discovering this myself. Was always a big deal for me. So there's certain elements that are more important to me. So I mean, I guess that's why it would be my number 1.
I mean, I'm pretty sure. How old is it?
It came out early 90s, I would say.
Yeah, because it's definitely, this is back before you knew anything. I mean, literally, you go to, I don't know if it was Blockbuster back then when I saw it, but you go into a Blockbuster and there's walls of movies, and all you have to go on is the cover.
Yeah.
And that's how I saw that movie.
Yeah, because their fucking guns are crazy. It looks like the guns from Split Second.
Somebody was talking about, which is great. Rutger versus Venom. I mean, what a great movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I knew nothing about the movie. So you go, it's kind of surreal.
Yeah, no, it's definitely out there, but yeah, it's definitely one to track down. It's definitely on DVD. Deserves another release because I mean it's a really shitty transfer because it's like when DVDs first came out. It's like I think they're old clamshells.
Yeah,
the old clamshell DVDs if you guys remember those. But yeah, no, but yeah, that's it.
Cool.
I probably, if I'd been thinking about it, would have put Abbott and Costello and Frankenstein on.
Cool. Yeah, there was a couple that I left off in there, but yeah, because I knew we would overlap big time.
Yeah, totally. Well, we got to get wrapping up here, guys. But I wanted to do a quick shout out to the guy that redesigned our logo.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
We got a new logo. You probably saw us tweet about it and then put it on our Facebook. It should be in iTunes hopefully by now, but you never know with iTunes. But a friend of the show, Kevin Spencer, you can check out his work at inkspatters.com, and I'm really happy with it. I kind of wanted to redo it. I had just done it on the computer, just kind of on a whim, and
I didn't know that's Kevin with the green face with the mohawk.
Yeah. Yep, Kevin.
Oh, that's cool. Kevin does it. I got pictures right behind me of Kevin. I got a Uber Jason and
sweet.
Me and my daughter.
Sweet.
Yeah, I've known Kevin for a long time.
Yeah, he's a good guy. So he designed the new logo, and I'm really super happy with it. And so we'll see what that goes. He's eager to do more design stuff for us. So I'm doors always open.
Yeah, we're for that. Yeah.
So
I can't officially say that if I were doing a book that Kevin would be doing the illustrations, but because that would be wrong. It would be really too early for me to say that, but I like Kevin.
Well, he's good. He's really talented, and he also does covers for Sanitarium magazine, and he was doing the stuff for Forgotten Flicks podcast. But I believe they're wrapping up that podcast. That podcast is gonna stop. So, but
he and his son have collected 100,000 shark's teeth.
I know,
which makes me envious.
Yeah, they live like right by the ocean and collect shark teeth. Every weekend, I'm super jealous whenever I see pictures. But really good guy. Check out his artwork. If you're a paying customer, you need some artwork done, you hire Kevin. That's all I got to say.
I agree.
So, but I wanted to take a brief moment here. So Todd can let us know. Todd, what are you up to? What do you got coming down the pipe? Anything worth or anything that you can talk about? I know everyone's always working on something.
Well, Heavenly Sword comes out DVD, Blu-ray, and so forth. It's animated based on Heavenly Sword, the game, PlayStation 3 game. That comes out September 2nd. American Muscle, I played a role in that, just indie film. I wanted to know about how indie works, and so I went out to the middle of the desert and shot an indie film. So that comes out at the end of September. Everything else,
we had Travis Stevens on one of our shows.
Yeah, it's probably horrible, and I'm probably the worst thing in it, but who knows? But and then I don't think I have anything else. I know what you should do. Dean Lorey, who wrote Jason Goes to Hell and moved on to he did My Boyfriend's Back, and he's been on Arrested Development, and most recently on Crazy Ones with Robin Williams, bless his heart. Mm-hmm. He wrote a book called Romance for Men. So go to romanceformen.com and read that, because it is the funniest thing you'll ever read. It is the dirtiest. I didn't think anything could embarrass me, but he's had Howie Mandel and Dennis Leary and Kane Hodder and Tyler Main and myself and a whole bunch of people gave Robin Williams, Sarah Michelle Gellar. They all gave him blurbs having read it. Nice. Howie Mandel. I mean, he's got massive people have read it and loved it and just were completely embarrassed by it. So romanceformen.com. That's I give a boost to my buddy.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Todd, I want to thank you so much for chatting with us about Ginger Snaps. I've been wanting to talk to you in person for quite a while, so it's good to actually talk to the man, the myth, the legend.
Let's do it again after after the show gets really big and you need to weed out some people and make it tank. Bring me back on. I'll
Okay.
have to do that.
You just replace me because
Perfect.
no one likes me.
That's not true.
Dude, I put Jason in space. I think I got you beat in the hate department.
Dude, that's why I love Jason X, Jason in Space, man. Come on. People get their like nuts all twisted up for the stupidest reasons.
I still get hate mail.
Do you really?
Yeah, all the time. Hate mail, hate emails, hate
that's
comments.
Fantastic.
It is.
Yeah.
I figure if they hate it, they still bought it. Hey guys, I'm sorry that you hate Jason X, and I'm really sorry it bought me an Audi. Go ahead. Keep hating.
I think every horror icon needs to get to space once. I'm waiting for Freddy in space. That has to happen. I mean, Leprechaun went. Jason went. Critters, well, they've always been from space, so it's inevitable to get back to space.
Don't give people ideas, Sean.
Who else has been in space?
We don't want to do it for
Hellraiser's
every
been in space.
franchise.
Hell yeah, hell yes. But I love Jason X. I think it's a fun movie, and I'm a sci-fi nerd anyway, so it was like sci-fi and horror blended with Jason. Come on.
I love aliens, so I'm all over space.
There you go. All right, well, you can check out the show over at thescreamcast.com. Find us on Twitter, @scream_cast. And I want to thank all of you for listening to the show. Until next week, this is us signing off. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Oh, don't tell me you're leaving. The party's just begun.
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Hello. Okay, good.
Hey, Sean.
That was too much. Too much to get out of your mouth a little bit. Okay, proceed. I'm done.
Okay. What are we doing? The Blu-ray announcements?
Yes.
L is for the way you look.
Wait, what's going on here? No,
wait, I thought you wanted me to sing.
We're not doing musical break. We're doing
Blu-ray
the Blu-ray announcements.
All right.